I want to welcome you to Nextiva's session today on unified communications and the channel. My name is Ira Feuerstein. I'm the Director of North America Channel Sales for Nextiva. Lucky to have along with us today a great friend of mine, Gary Testa. Gary is the Vice President of Global Cloud and Service Provider Solutions Group at Polycom. And, Gary is a great guy. He's been around the industry for many, many years. He's a very visionary thinker, and he has lots of great information to share with our partners and our potential partners on sort of where voice is going and the evolution of voice to unified communications as a service, video as a service, and other sort of hot topics in the industry right now. And we're really, really excited to be doing this presentation for you guys today. So the agenda will be basically we're going to first talk about voice, sort of where voice is evolving to unified communications. We're going to talk about video as a service, and then all along, guys, in your app, you can ask questions through chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask questions during that time, and we'll get to as many as we can, during the presentation. So again, welcome aboard, and we're glad to have you. So a little bit about Nextiva, if you're not familiar with us. We've been in business since 2008. We are one of the fastest growing hosted providers in the United States. And one of the big things for us, guys, is that in the 6 years we've been in business now, we've actually grown to over 80,000 customers using our unified communication solution. And it's very important that you guys understand a couple things. Number one, our company has a very big push on the concept of amazing service. To us, that is what the whole company revolves around, making sure that we give an amazing service experience to our customers, our partners, and even our internal employees. And that's why we've been able to grow so fast over the years and maintain our customer and grow our customer base very, very large, very quickly because of our commitment to amazing service. We see ourselves more of a communications and collaboration company rather than a pure telephony company, which is what we're talking about today. How do you work with your customers to unify all the ways that they communicate and collaborate in business? Because they communicate and collaborate way more than just through their telephone. And we'll go into some of those things in the presentation, but I want you thinking about that as we're going through it. And then as far as Polycom, I'll let Gary talk a little bit about it, but what I'd like to say about Polycom is they're a great partner of ours, one of our best. We're a platinum service provider with Polycom. There's not many of those in the country, I don't believe. And, what I can say about Polycom from Nextiva's perspective is these guys are willing to really do whatever it takes to ensure that the Polycom experience is awesome for customers. The devices are great. They rarely have issues, unlike other providers out there which have lots of defect rates. And for me and for our channel, Polycom are our go-to phones to ensure that our customers always have a great experience. Like Gary, you can elaborate a little bit more about Polycom in the future there and give your sort of take on it.
Yeah, thanks, Ira. No, I'll keep it short. I mean, Polycom, we're clearly a leader in the UC and video and voice collaboration space. We have always led with our voice expertise. We started in the market 20 years ago with high-definition voice and have helped drive that. We love working together with Nextiva and our partners who have that visionary look in terms of how to really bring collaboration out and into the masses. In many ways, collaboration has been really the providence of very large enterprises, and together with Nextiva and our global partners, we're really working hard to bring that same amazing experience through our products and with your services into the market. So I couldn't be more than happy to be here today talking about this.
Awesome. Well, so let's kind of dive in here. So, the first thing we've been talking about a lot internally is that, the whole concept of unified communications has been really taking off, especially over the last year or so. We're seeing a lot more people grasp onto it. and it's really more than I've ever seen in my career. So what are you guys seeing at Polycom in terms of growth of the UC market right now?
Well, we're going through a massive growth stage, and I think it's really important that people understand not just how fast the market is growing, but how large it is to start with. You know, in a lot of the telecom spaces, what's always interesting to me is we're generally starting from very large numbers and then going to slightly larger numbers. But in the UC collaboration space, we're starting from almost a $2.5 billion market, addressable market, and we're going to 7.6. I mean, this is incredible growth over a 5-year period. It really looks to me very similar to the experience we had when mobile devices first rolled out and everybody had to have it. But equally important is the growth of applications. And when I say applications, what I really mean is opportunities to integrate UC into your business practices. In other words, it's not just about communicating with each other. It's really about how do you leverage unified communications into the business practices to make them more efficient. And if you look at the growth happening there, you know, it's massive as well. And so it's really the combination of these two things that are going to drive so many of our end user customers to look at, well, how do I take all these amazing technologies, but how do I really give them a practical application into my business? And I think that's really where the partnership that we have with Nextiva is really so critical to that, so that we can all participate in that growth model.
Totally, totally. So, you know, we have providers on the call today. I mean, literally, they range the gamut, right? We have managed services providers. We have sort of standard telecom brokers. We have internet telephone providers. You know, and all these types of companies have a variety of products in their toolkit today. So saying that, what would you say to those that aren't currently offering voice as part of their solution set right now?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. When you look at this graphic, one of the things that everybody calls out for me is the fact that the bottom number clearly is at least a third of the overall number. But in terms of that, when you look at its growth year on year, people say, Gary, it's really small. Why are you able to say that you're seeing 30% quarter on quarter growth in your endpoint business, but why isn't IP telephony as a whole? Why isn't that growing as fast? In other words, why don't we see that massive multiple? And what's really important here, Ira, is that you have to dive into the details of what's happening within that orange bar on the bottom. We're seeing two major trends happen right now. First is we're seeing a major trend away from on-premise voice solutions. In other words, there are a lot of very traditional PBX and key set systems out there, and customers are simply moving away from them and going to hosted voice applications because it's so much more cost effective. Your total cost of ownership for a cloud solution is typically a fifth or less of what it would be for an on-premise solution. And the reason is that you're not buying a large centrally integrated piece of hardware. You don't have all the maintenance associated with it, and the actual maintenance and configuration, you don't need to have people on site or standing by 24/7, because the cloud solutions provide you an easy way to do that self-management without all of that overhead. So that's one huge trend. In other words, we have a transition that's happening there. But the other thing that's happening is that within that transition, there are a large number of what are already considered VoIP phones and VoIP services being transitioned from on-premise to the cloud. So within that IP telephony number, what's not showing up is that move from the VoIP on-premise solutions to the VoIP hosted. And that is really what's driving this massive growth, because there's a whole new sequence of phones and services that are being driven. So I would tell anybody who does not have voice, one thing you have to consider is that when any customer is looking at a UC solution, the voice decision is the single most important decision they will make. I go with customers all the time and ask them, what would happen if I took away your email? Could you still operate your business? And people say, well, wow, Gary, that's really critical. But what if I took away your IM&P, your IM and presence? Oh, I could live with that. And then I ask them, what if I took away your voice? And there's silence. And the reason is because people cannot even imagine what their business would look like without the ability to communicate with voice and voice services to their partners, to their end users, to their customers. So if you don't have a solid voice solution, you're really not going to be able to play in this UC space.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I saw some studies recently about how many millions and millions of key systems are out there still just in the United States, and how they're coming to the end of their life. And a lot of these providers aren't even supporting them anymore. So there's just with that segment of the market, it's going to be a massive opportunity, I think, for us to capitalize on and really get in there. So, I mean, the thing I think we need to dive into, since you had alluded to it already and said it, is that voice is sort of the core component of the things. So let's maybe dive into, voice as a service as sort of the baseline of the pyramid and sort of what that opportunity looks like. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this next graph, if you're going to participate in a market, you got to love a graph that shows 25% cumulative aggregate growth rate. We're seeing, now this is on an industry level, okay? This is not Polycom, this is not Nextiva, this is at an industry level. So this is all the winners and all the not so winning companies out there. But when you look at companies like Nextiva and Polycom, who are on the cutting edge of what is happening in the voice as a service opportunity, we're experiencing growth rates of 30% quarter on quarter. These are massive growth rates. So, and it's all about that transition, Ira. I can't stress enough for your partners that over the next 5 years, we're going to see one of the greatest opportunities from a channel perspective when they represent solid voice service providers. Nobody wants to go out and spend $200,000, $300,000, even $25,000, frankly, on an on-premise system. And the reason is quite simple. If you look at what's happening in the market, we're going from highly centralized businesses to everybody working from home. I'll give you a great example. I run our global service provider business. I have 80 people around the world working for me for Polycom. There is not a single one of my people globally that sits in a Polycom office. I'm doing this call today from my home office here in Northern California. The fact is that once you disperse all of your employees, the cloud is the most efficient way to deliver those services, and voice in particular. Also, it's all of those key features that are delivered as part of voice. The ability to do, ACD, the ability to push calls out. I can transfer at a whim. I can move people back and forth. All of those critical voice features are better served in a disparate workforce from the cloud. And that's really what's driving this amazing opportunity for us.
Yeah, so the growth is there. So let's talk about a little bit about Polycom's place in the voice world. This is your bread and butter. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ira, if you click through these bullets for me, I'd appreciate it. Polycom today, we almost have about a third of the market. Depending on where we are anywhere from about a third to over 50% of the market, depending on the niche. We've been in this business longer than any of our competitors. As a matter of fact, we help define many of the standards that underlie this. But I think the most important, if you back away from the technology and you really look at why are our endpoints so important to Nextiva, why are we so important to your channel partners, it comes down to two things. The first one is that if you think about it, our endpoints, our phones, are the user interface that your customers will use every day when they use your service. The first thing that they will touch anytime they use your service is a Polycom phone, which means that the experience they have on that phone, from voice quality, from user capability, from the user experience, has to be second to none. And we pride ourselves in focusing on that. Our products are solid. They work every time. Interestingly enough, voice has the highest reliability number of any service in just about any industry outside of medicine. And so people rely on that, and they expect that from their endpoints. This truly is why, we are the exclusive handpoint to the top 8 of 10 providers in North America for voice over IP services. The second reason we're so critical is total cost of ownership. And what do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. If you drop a phone on the ground and it explodes into a million small plastic pieces, that just cost you $200. Cost you another $200 in terms of you actually being able to replace it, and it cost you another $200 for the service revenue you lost. There's a huge impact in not having highly reliable, really solid products out at the end user prem. So our total cost of ownership is lower than any other vendor, second to none. Our reliability rates are measured in the 100th%, meaning that our failures of out of box are almost zero. And we have strived over time to make sure that that customer experience is passed on. And really, it's a reflection of Nextiva. It's a reflection of our partners. It's a reflection of Nextiva's channel partners in the decision to lead with such a solid handset. At the end of the day, my team spends the majority of our time working with our service provider partners to ensure that your end users always have a rock-solid experience, because that's not just how they judge Polycom, it's how they judge you. And if we can head off any of those service requests, it's just one more opportunity to provide absolutely fantastic service to the end user.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a huge deal for us, too, because, as we're a national provider and we're out there, deploying phones all over the United States, we've got to make sure that when we're putting gear out at a customer site that it's not going to be problematic for us, right? That it's going to work. It's going to sound great. All those types of good things. So that's real important to us as a provider. And frankly, it should be really important to our partners as well. What I'd like to do now is sort of segue into more unified communications as a service. And, the one point I want to make to everyone on the call today is that user expectations are really changing. It used to be in the old days where you would pick up the phone, you would make a call to a customer or a partner or an employee, and that was all you sort of expected out of it. But now, in the world where everything's colliding from a technology perspective, you've got multiple people in a business all trying to put their take on, should we go with Nextiva as a provider? Should we use this channel partner to help us be our solution expert? And, as you're going through this as a partner and you're dealing with customers, you got to know that there's 3 different types of buyers. You've got the end user, the person who's just going to be sitting there on the phone all day. You've got the sort of technical buyer. And then the most important is sort of the financial buyer, and they look at different things when you're presenting a solution. So you need to make sure of who you're talking to and how you're presenting to that person. So as an example, an end user is going to want some specific things like, hey, is it like my Android phone? Is it easy to use? Do I have a touch screen? Can it be personalized? Can I access a browser through it? They're looking for sort of more usability type things. Where the technical buyer, which might be your IT guy at the company, is looking for other things. He wants durability. He wants things like it's flexible and easy to deploy, that it's portable, that, when they move offices, they can just take their phone and move it somewhere else. That it's interoperable, that you can use it with multiple, systems, that it's using, SIP as a standard protocol. So they're looking at completely different things. Those 2 buyers, the end user and the technical buyer, can always say no to you and to Nextiva, but most times they're never going to say yes, and it's going to come down to the financial buyer. And that financial buyer becomes sort of the balance point that makes the final decision. So you got to make sure that when we're talking about unified communications as a service to our customers, that we're taking all 3 into account and we're sending the correct message to the correct person, and you need to tailor that presentation. Now, from Nextiva's point of view, we've got awesome end user experience. our tech support is amazing. I mean, just so you guys know, we have 110 plus people sitting here in the same office I'm in who all they do is tech support. So when your customers call in, they're never going to get some guy, halfway across the world who says his name is John, and it's really not John. And, and it's also a low, total cost of ownership, which is really important to the financial buyer. So we blend all these things together, but you want to make sure that at the end of the day, you're presenting the correct message to the person that you're talking to. Now, really, the opportunity is here right now. I mean, Gary's already talked about some of the growth and, some of the opportunity, but I wanted to sort of segue into the opportunity and have Gary talk to sort of different segments of the population and what things that they're looking for from a communication and collaboration solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, if you could hop back just for one second to the previous slide, Ira, I think it's real important. So we have done a tremendous amount of research. We go out and talk to a lot of different size companies, a lot of different demographics. And what we have found is that you always need to make sure you're asking the right questions to your end users. Now, for any salesperson, that's not a surprise, but one of the things that's interesting is that when we ask people if they wanted to do a meeting with coworkers, how would you prefer to host the meeting versus a brainstorming session? And Ira, if you go to the next slide for me. What's interesting is that we have always assumed, particularly around video and web conferencing and video conferencing, that there's kind of a demographic issue, and it's related to age. In other words, the older the user, the less likely they are to want to use video. But in fact, what we found is that when you start to ask questions like brainstorming, for instance, meaning highly interactive sessions, what you find is that actually the preference goes up dramatically. And so you really get into an interesting set of demographics where people are willing to use video conference chat and those types of things much more frequently as you get older. And the reason is, and this is what we found, is that as you dig into it, what you find is that the more experienced people really recognize the value of seeing the other person's expression. In other words, my ability to read an audience, for instance, take a conference like this. There's no video on this conference, right? I can't see any of you. I guarantee you half of everybody is multitasking. You're doing email and you're listening to me at the same time. But I can't see when you're nodding. I can't see when you're shaking your head. I can't see when you're frowning. In other words, the feedback loop is broken, right? So, in other words, when I see you, I know if my words are resonating with you. When I'm having a brainstorming session, I can tell. That's the power of video in a person-to-person interaction. When you do video for your customer service, you can readily see people. As a matter of fact, we did a funny study, and we find out that when you do customer service using video, your customers come away 3 times happier even when you don't solve their problem. In other words, if you think about it, 80% of our brain is dedicated to visual input. We're visual animals, right? We rely on what we see for so much of our surroundings and our information and what we view in the world. My ability to see you is critical. So it's an interesting dynamic, and it's what we're seeing in the UC world, is that video is quickly becoming not just a nice to have, but in many cases a requirement. And so you need a full video component of your UC strategy if you're going to compete in this space and really participate in that growth.
That's really interesting. I mean, because if you look at it, I don't fall into the old guys yet. I'm getting closer. I'm like in that younger boomers thing. But my kids all think I'm in the older category. And
yeah.
But I love video. Like, if you took my video away from me on my Polycom phone on my desk, I wouldn't know what to do, because you're right. I mean, it changes the dynamics of how you do business. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that I've done in my past with video here in a little bit, bring it into the mix. But I think you guys would be really interested to hear some of those things. But yeah, like I said, video to me is like a no-brainer. I'll be running through an airport, and I'll literally do a video call back to my team guys while I'm running through the airport, just because I want to be able to see them. So that's a big deal, and I think a lot of people underestimate that. And I think we need to find reasons a lot of times why customers should be using video. And that's sort of the secret sauce I've seen, is finding reasons why they should be using it. And once they start using it, they won't give it up, because it changes the way you do business.
Yeah, no, you're right, Ira, and I think you're right. I think rather than just focusing on video and conferencing, what we really need to do is focus on use cases that are brought into their business practice, right? We have to show them how video will accelerate their business practices.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, if you watch that last one real quick there, if you're going to do a brainstorming session, almost 60% of people would rather do it over video. That's an amazing comparison to audio conferencing when you think about it. So
totally, because it totally changes the dynamic. Like, you can tell, I'm not multitasking here at all, but but if I was on video, I certainly wouldn't be, because you're engaged with people, and you get so much more done.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about how Polycom and Nextiva are delivering on the promise of unified communications as a service together as a team. So, Gary, I'll let you take the left side of the slide, and then I'll take the right side.
Perfect. So, one of the advantages in working with advanced partners like Nextiva is they're always pushing the edge. We are constantly at Polycom developing new products, new software, new handsets. As many of you probably know, that we've moved from our SoundPoint product line to our VVX product line. And the VVX product line is really based on the feedback that we got from our substantial user base. As smartphones have become pervasive, the desire to have a capacitive touchscreen on the phones was an absolute requirement. So the VVX 500 and 600 have exactly that smartphone-like look and feel on the user interface. And then in addition, one of the critical things we saw was that the phone really is becoming a very highly adaptable video endpoint. Now, one of the things that we noticed is that people didn't always want to jump right into video. So what we did is we made the high-definition camera on the VVX 5 and 600s, we made that an option. In other words, we give you the opportunity to go in and win the business, because oftentimes you're competing against very low-cost providers, but provide a seamless way of upgrading people to that video experience that we just talked about. So with that endpoint evolution, it's going to give Nextiva the opportunity to deliver on a whole nother vision of services and things. And Ira, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Nextiva, guys, we talked earlier that, we see ourselves more as a cloud communications and collaboration provider rather than just telephony. And, like as an example, the VVX phones are killer. They're awesome phones, and they're so easy to deploy. Literally, there's a USB slot on the top of the phone. You just take the camera, you plug it in, it says video camera enabled, and boom, as soon as you've done that, you've now enabled point-to-point video anywhere in the Nextiva network. So literally, I can call any other customer on the Nextiva network. If we both have Polycom VVX phones, or maybe I have a VVX phone and you have a software app on your Android or iOS, we get video literally the minute that call is made, automatically, free of charge. Now, it also allows us to do a lot of other things that are more advanced. So, things like being able to audio record a call, things like, being able to pull in advanced call center routing and, silent monitoring and barge in and even next generation products that we're working on that'll blow your socks off, because we're really like Gary said, we're really pushing the envelope here, and we're coming out with some things that are going to integrate in to the phones that are going to literally change the way businesses do business. To us, that's really crucial. We know this is way more than just about making a phone call. It's about what is the whole experience for a customer? How does a customer collaborate? So as a matter of fact, we're rolling out a product that's going to take the place of this WebEx, and it'll be something that you can use, you can sell to your customers completely integrated to the phones. We're working on a Drive product, which allows us to have documents storing and sharing of documents and instant messaging and presence and all sorts of different things embedded into a seamless experience. And to me, that's what's crucial about this, because I'm a road warrior like Gary. I am. You guys, most of you guys, a lot of people on the phone know I'm all over all the time, and I have multiple devices that I work on. So as an example, I've got a Polycom VVX with a camera, a VVX 600 with a camera on my desk. I've got my laptop. I've got my Android phone, and I've got a Microsoft Surface Pro 2 tablet. For me, depending on the day and where I'm at, I may choose to use one device or the next. In the Nextiva world, it doesn't matter which product I pick or which device I pick, because what I've done is I've made the experience seamless across all my devices. So literally, if you were to call me and I answer it sitting on a plane on my app, you would never know. Or if I called you from my Surface Pro tablet, you'd think I'm calling from the office, or I may be sitting in the office like I am right now. But it's all about creating this sort of broad range of business cloud communication. But more important than creating it, it's tying it all together so it's seamless for your customers. And, that's going to be a big deal. I mean, the one thing I think about with video, Gary, is everyone's talking about video in these UC solutions. And I know Polycom is really the industry leader in video. Where are you seeing kind of video headed?
Yeah, it's interesting. So there's video has if you go back in time, what you find out is that video was really focused initially on very large enterprise. You go into any Global 1000 company today, and you go in their boardrooms and you go in their big conference rooms, and they're all video enabled. And they have very large room systems. They have immersive video systems. So for much of the market, there's this belief that, looking at each other is the primary use case for video. And in large enterprises, in many ways, that is the case, right? They use them in those contexts. But when you start to look at other parts of the market, particularly the SMB, what you need to do is you need to rethink what video does and what its application is. And then when I say video, I mean real-time video. I mean the ability to really show you something that you can't see. And I want to tell you a few stories, because I think some of these not only are great illustrations, but they're a lot of fun. So, in the SMB, it's really not about you see me, right? If for those of you that are out there that have met me before, like Ira, has and his team, we know what each other looks like. And we do enough business together that video is great. I mean, when I meet Ira outside of a conference like this, we always use video. But what's more important at an SMB is it's about me being able to show you something that you can't see. It's about me taking you with me. And let me tell you my best customer story around this. For those of you that have ever gone out and owned a boat, you know that boats are great for breaking down. And I recently had the opportunity to spend some time with one of the largest ski boat resellers in North America, and one of the problems that they face, they're a Mastercraft dealer, one of the problems that they face is that these boats now have video screens on them and touch screens, and they have all these complicated systems on them. And I stood next to this guy. They were interested in looking at a phone system, but I stood next to their customer service lead and listened to him talk to a customer on the phone for about 40 minutes, trying to explain to this guy what buttons to push on this video screen that was on the boat to get the boat to do something. And the guy couldn't figure out where he was supposed to touch. He couldn't tell, the customer service guy couldn't tell where he was in the process. And so I said, let me take a shot at this. And I got on the phone with their customer, and I said, do you have an iPhone? I said, I want you to go and download the Polycom Real Presence mobile app. And he did that. It came right down off the iTunes store, the App Store. And then we hooked him up through my iPad and the guy's smartphone, so now their customer service manager could see what the customer was looking at. And what had been a 40-minute conversation turned into a 2-minute, no, touch that button there, touch this button here, and done. And when we hung up the phone, the customer service manager turned to me and said, you know, I need voice, but this video has just revolutionized the way. I just saved literally 38 minutes of my day. He goes, and not only that, but now you're telling me I could record that interaction. I could put that on my website. And now I could have people that have the same problem simply click on that button. These are types of SMB applications. When you're talking to smaller businesses, don't talk to them about just seeing each other. Look for opportunities like I just explained. Where are they doing complex device support? Insurance adjusting is another great one. Leave your intelligent people at home. Send out the field human tripods. These are lower paid people that can move around and show those people. You know, what are they looking at? Telemedicine is a major one. Micro kiosks. These are basically just tablets with a one-touch to dial that brings you in touch with someone who knows how to do that support. All of these are the innovative applications that SMBs are using video to not just save time, not just increase profits, but to dramatically increase their customer satisfaction. It gets to be so sticky that it's impossible to leave. Because when I want support, I call Ira. I see Ira. I know Ira. I can't get Ira at the next guy. So it's really a really sticky application that we're seeing out there.
No, that's awesome. And, you know, an example I have is about a year ago, I was working on a deal with a partner, and it was one of those deals where you would think that they would have no want or need of video at all. It was a small city municipality, 150 seats, and it's funny, they did an RFP for a phone system. And this RFP was very simple. They wanted a phone system that did voicemail. That was like pretty much the extent of it. So, you know, we got down to the final three. I came in with the partner to do the presentation. And, you know, I got in front of this group of like 20 people. And it was like the mayor was there and the police chief and the fire chief, the city manager. They were all there. And I looked at them and I said, guys, honestly, if really all you need is a phone system that can do voicemail, I'm done. We can do that. And, you know, everyone started laughing. I'm like, let's talk about what you really need. And so I looked at the police chief sitting next to me, and I said, hey, so question for you. You got guys out in the field. You find a dead body or a body somewhere. You know, how are you communicating back to headquarters? And he says, well, we use our radio, just like all police do. And I said, well, why? Why would you do that? And he goes, well, that's the only thing we have. And I said, so I pulled out my Android phone, and I brought up the Polycom Real Presence app. And I made a quick video call back to one of my guys. And you could see the light bulb went on in the guy's head. And I said, this is how you're going to do it. This is how you can be at headquarters or even at home in the middle of the night and be able to see exactly what's happening at that crime scene. And then as soon as I said that, it was like literally the story was as long as I just told it. The police chief puts his hand up in the air and says, this is the system I want. I'm done. I don't need to hear any more. And that's what sold it. But again, it was all about finding how you could weave it into their needs. Because a lot of times people are thinking old school. They're thinking about phones. They're not thinking about all these other things that you can do. So that was a pretty cool one from my perspective. So from a video as a service strategy, Gary, what are you guys seeing? You know, how are you enabling partners?
Well, so we from an infrastructure perspective, we provide Nextiva a whole host of ways of providing video. For your primary market, it's really the hosted video that's so critical. You know, for very large enterprise, of course, we can deliver on-premise systems that are very hardware intensive and large. And for large organizations that have the capability to do that, they may prefer to do that. For the majority, though, of the medium and small enterprises out there, it makes no sense to do an on-premise system. It's the same, frankly, as the change we're seeing in the PBX market. So the majority of our customers are all looking for the types of hosted video applications that you're able to provide today. They're just so much more cost-effective, much lower total cost of ownership. And frankly, Nextiva does such a tremendous job in making the ease of use and usability there that, there really just is no other choice at this point at the price points that you're able to provide. I mean, hosted video, hosted voice, the market is moving that way, and no sense in fighting up against that current.
Awesome. So I've got a couple questions here. Let's dive into a few questions for you. I got one for me, I'll answer, but I'll ask yours first. So somebody had said, hey, you mentioned efficiencies are gained in business applications due to UC. What are some examples of the types of efficiencies you've seen in that companies have gained, and how can partners in the channel leverage those examples?
Well, so as I said earlier in the Mastercraft example, that basically turned from a 40-minute call to a 2-minute call. I mean, huge. That is a huge improvement. The other thing that is amazing when we get people together is, from a UC perspective, it's really about the ability to reach people the way they want to be reached. So I'll give you an example. With UC, you've got the integration of voice, of video, of IM, of presence, of storage, and it's all integrated. So the user experience overall is such that when I need to see Ira, when I need to talk to him, he gets to choose what device he answers on. In other words, I may dial his phone number, but I never know where he's going to pop up. As he said, he may be running through the airport and he pulls me up on his smartphone. The power of that is absolutely critical. I spend 70% of my time on the road, and I want to make sure that I get to choose. Sometimes I'm in a meeting like this and people will send me an IM that I can quickly respond to because they need a fast decision. All of these things, these abilities for me, the recipient, to choose how I communicate, that is truly the underlying power of UC. We have a lot of different statistics that I could give you. Doctors in particular are able to make diagnosis by simply seeing what their clients look like. In other words, their patients. And so we do a huge business in telemedicine. Now, you would think that that's only in big hospitals. But in fact, rural doctors are one of the best applications that we have, and they're able to save hours. In other words, if a rural doctor has to drive 2 or 3 hours to see a single patient, which is sometimes the case, we have a lot of this up in, say, northern Canada or out in the oil fields. Imagine the time saved when I can simply pull you up on video and actually look at the situation that you're in. I think your example, going back to emergency responders and public defenders, another huge one, right? The ability to show people the situation you're in saves you. In fact, it may save you from sending the wrong people to the scene, right? In other words, I don't need that group of emergency responders. I need somebody else. And it's those types of applications that are having such a dramatic impact. But once again, Ira, and I would stress this for all of our sellers, when you sell UC, don't just sell communications. Understand what your challenge is that your customers face. Go spend a day and walk in their shoes. And when you do that, what you'll find is that you'll quickly see opportunities in the way that they work today to help save them time, money, make them more efficient, and, of course, dramatically increase customer satisfaction.
Absolutely. Another question that came up for you is, can you share any stats on the phone lifespan, like SoundPoint VVX over 3+ years and 5+ years?
Well, so the phone lifespans, this is always the great thing for our customers. The average life of our phones in the marketplace today is going on 7+ years. what you're finding is that people are holding on to the phones for a long time. And the reason is because the phones don't break. But I think it's another interesting facet, and that is that churn with service providers who use Polycom phones is half of what it is with other vendors. And again, it's the satisfaction of using the phone. In other words, when you put a Polycom phone on the desk of one of your customers, you've automatically inserted a massive churn reduction. In other words, that customer is going to stay with you longer because they're more satisfied with the overall experience. And again, it all comes back to that, that whole user experience. Make it simple, make it reliable, and for voice and video, make it sound good and always make it look good.
Yeah, that's totally true. This question came in for me. Is there a typical company profile that you could see adopting cloud in the market? What should the partner look for on the phone for ideal prospects? This is a huge, I could do an hour just on this. Things are changing very rapidly, everybody. You got to understand that. There are millions upon millions of key systems that are coming end of life. If you walk into an office and you see that they have white phones on their desks or gray phones, pretty good indication they're probably like 10 plus years old and they need to go. But from a sort of a cloud perspective, what I always like to look for certain things. I like to look for events in businesses. Is a business moving? Are they growing? Are they shrinking? Those sort of events seem to make them reevaluate moving and changing things. Do they have multiple locations? Do they want to be able to tie, like franchises are a great one. You get franchises, there may be 1,000 franchise partners out there. They all own 1 or 2 stores, and they need to be able to communicate between each other and do extension dialing between remote locations. So that's a good one to look for. Things like businesses that have road warriors or mobile people who, maybe they want to move away from a sort of centralized plan where everyone's in an office. They want to save money and they want to move everyone out of their home offices. Or they have people who travel all the time and they want them connected into the phone system to be seamless. There are lots of different ways that you can compartmentalize and look at it. I would recommend, talking to, either myself or one of your Nextiva channel managers and dive into those specific situations, because there's a lot of ways you can look at it, and I'm telling you, you saw the statistics earlier in this call. It's moving fast. I look at this, to be honest, the next 5-7 years are going to be sort of the gold rush. The people who are on this call who really understand what's going on around them and understand the statistics and actually go out and act on it and start looking for these opportunities are the ones who are going to make tremendous residual income streams that are going to set them up for a long, long time. But again, lots of different reasons why people would look to go to the cloud. So let's tie it all together. So one of the things we're going to do for you guys is I'm going to send you, after this webinar, a success story from our eldest statesman, John Parra, he was a partner. He's been a partner of ours for like 5 years. He was a partner 4.5 years before we technically even had a partner program or even put any framework around how we do partner programs. He's an amazing guy, and I'm going to send you out a video that you guys can watch at your leisure that talks about sort of why he chose Nextiva and sort of some of the things about us and Polycom and what makes a great partnership. So be looking for that as a follow-up email. But from the Nextiva perspective, it's all about the creation of this amazing partner program. And I can spend a lot of time on this, but I'm going to take like 5 minutes. The bottom line here, guys, is that if you look around the industry, most providers who do telephone service, even hosted telephone service, all came or cut from the same cloth. They're all ex-telecom people. They're sort of utility-minded. When you call a utility company, what happens, right? They do a very good job getting you in as a customer. But once you're a customer, then customer service is sort of suspect at best. With us, it's all about an amazing program, and I'm treating our customers and our partners amazingly. So as a partner, if you're already a partner, you probably know this. If you're not a partner, you should know it. We have dedicated resources for you guys. We actually have sales support, quote to close. We have a leading technology platform. Our technology platform is solid. We're deploying next generation phones and devices. Polycom is what we use. We have customized marketing programs. To me, guys, this is a huge, huge X factor, and you should not underestimate that. Nextiva is the best marketing company I have ever seen in the industry, and we actually, because we're very selective about who we bring in as a partner, we want to allow you to be part of our marketing group. So and there's many people on this call, I can see the list right now, who are already partners, who are already taking advantage of this, but we can actually help you market your business and generate more sales. And then from a Polycom side of things, we're offering, Polycom has been gracious to offer a rebate program. It's basically cash back in your customer pockets when they buy Polycom phones. There's a different rebate for each phone that they buy, and we can send that link to you guys so you guys can take a look at that. We're right now doing a $20 per phone spiff program for our partners. So every Polycom you sell, $20 extra in your pocket. And then one of the big things from an amazing partner program, and this is like an act of Congress in most companies, which blows me away. We feel like if you're good enough as a partner to be using or to be a partner of ours, why aren't we giving you our service for free? So we allow our partners to actually have demo phones, and Polycom has been gracious enough to help us with that, to actually deploy a VVX 500 with a camera in every one of our partners' offices. That way you can actually go out and demo this stuff live to customers. So, we really, between Polycom and Nextiva, we have the solutions, we have the tools, and we have the resources, including a full-blown partner portal to support you, our partners, and to help drive your business. To me, that's the most important part. It's not about signing you on as a partner. That does nothing for either of us. But what really does it is, if it's a partnership, a true partnership, we're going to actually help you drive your business and help drive your revenues. And by us doing that, that creates a partnership. So that's what it's all about. And then what are some of the next steps? What are the plans? And cloud services and unified communication is happening now. You need to ask yourself and maybe sit down with your teams and say, how are we addressing this? Because if we're not addressing it, or if you're not addressing it appropriately, I can guarantee you there's 10 other guys in your area, 10 other customers, or companies, who are going to go after your customers, and they're going to take the business. So, and we can help you with those strategic plans. So engage us, guys. We know how to do this. We can help you address it. Number two, are you leveraging Polycom and Nextiva to its fullest extent? Are you using our apps? Do you have a Polycom phone on your desk with video? Are you using our marketing team to help you market your business? Are you actually, what I always love the term, eating your own dog food, right? It's hard to sell unified communications if you're not embedded in it. And let me tell you, the minute you get embedded in it, you will get it. And it'll make it so easy to be able to give the value proposition to your customers. And then if you need help, we're dedicated to your success. Absolutely. Just engage us. It's really important to us that we work together. It's not a one-way street, and we definitely want to engage. If you want to learn more about our partner program, or if you're already a partner, you can email me. My email information is here, as well as our website, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to help you as a partner grow your business. There's actually a couple other questions that came in, and we've got about 5 minutes left, so let's do these. So Gary, what is it about video that increases the profitability for the channel partners on the phone?
Well, the clear answer there is that you always, or I recommend anyway, I'm not saying you should, but this is a strategy I always employ, which is Oftentimes in these UC opportunities, the key is not to oversell the customer day one, but to sell them what they need and then to look for opportunities to upsell. One of the most obvious things is that video oftentimes may not be the first thing on a customer's agenda. They may be focused on voice. But in the sales process, you need to let them know that you have that video capability. You have that opportunity to upsell them to new services. And this is the same strategy you should use with cloud-based document storage, audio recording, all of those things. In other words, I always recommend sell the customer the things that will solve their problem the fastest. Make them happy. Then look for opportunities to upsell that customer to keep them happy. All of that increases your ARPU, which obviously increases your margin and your revenue.
Yeah, the word that comes to mind for everyone is stickiness, right? It's all about stickiness of that client. You want that customer to be around for 10 plus years and be gaining the residual income stream for many, many years. So it's all about, each piece of the unified communications puzzle makes that customer more sticky and makes them want to stay around for a much longer time because, frankly, it becomes just too difficult to switch, right? It's called, difficulty of switching. And it may, and you may go to a customer and it may start out as all they need is phones, or maybe it starts out as, hey, they really need video, or maybe it starts out they really need IM and presence, IM&P, but as you start bolting on these other pieces of the UCaaS ecosystem, it's going to make that customer more and more sticky. There's a question that came in for me. Is there any part of our UCaaS portfolio based on applications? So one of the things that we have, everyone, is we have our Nextiva app. Nextiva app is really cool. If you haven't seen it yet, you need to get on with your channel manager and have them demo for you. I use it every day. And what it is, it's an app that runs on any of your devices, and it ties together your phone, your instant messaging, your video, your directories. It ties in web collab, or will tie in web collaboration here in the next month or so when we roll that product out. It is an awesome app. I mean, I have it running literally on all my devices at all times, and it ties everything together. So when I'm running through the airport, not only can I pull off a video call to one of my guys, or I can pull off an audio call to one of my partners, but I can also do chat directly from that. So literally I could be on a plane and be chatting on my app and still be tied into the full experience. So that is a very, very big piece of our unified communications portfolio going forward. And then sort of the last question we have here is what sort of training is available for phones for customers from Nextiva and Polycom? From our perspective, we're willing to do whatever it takes to help train. I mean, we've got videos online that people can watch. The phones are very, very self-explanatory for the most part, because if you think about it, guys, in the unified communications world, a lot of the stuff isn't necessarily done on the actual phone device anymore, right? A lot of it's done on the web portal. Like, as an example, I needed to show, I have a Polycom VVX 600 on my desk. It allows for 16 line appearances on my screen. So I wanted to see all my people on my team in busy lamp field and know if they're on the phone or not. I never had to really touch the phone to do it, right? I just went into our portal. I just picked my 5-6 guys, click yes, and literally within a second, my phone changed, and all those people showed up on my phone, and if they're on the phone or not. So, there's not a ton to do as far as training on the phones, but we do have it available. And Polycom's got lots of great marketing brochures and different things that we can even co-brand for you guys if you want. So Gary, I guess we're 1 minute away. I want to just thank you for your time. I appreciate the insight and input. Like always, you're a wealth of information. I appreciate it.
Ira, it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for being such a great partner. I can't stress how important that is as your channel partners decide who to work with. The providers that we see in the market that are successful are those that have prioritized service to their channel and service to their end users above all else. because if you don't have the best customer service, it ultimately won't matter how good your underlying service is, because when you have a problem and you can't get to the right person, that's probably the highest, the fastest way to churn your customers. So Nextiva does a fantastic job, and it's been a pleasure to be here, and thanks for everyone's time.
Yeah, thank you very much. And everyone, thank you for joining us. We'll be doing another webinar in a couple weeks. We'll get it out to you. It's going to be called The Death of the PSTN. You do not want to miss that, because if you haven't heard, it's all over the news. The PSTN, Public Switch Telephone Network, is going away. They're pulling the plug in 2018. So you want to find out about that. I believe it's on June 18th, but we'll send out a calendar invite to you guys here in the next week or so. Thank you again, everyone, and have a good day and happy selling. And please engage us anytime if you need help closing up those unified communications deals. We're here for you. Thanks, and have a good day.